the okay. So to continue with the classes that we discussed yesterday, I'll just give the recap. Sorry, that's okay. So we were discussing about some rules, right? Certain rules which are applicable for both the interfaces and abstract classes. So what are those rules? Like these are the set of rules that we have. Okay. So the interfaces versus abstraction or abstract classes. What are those abstract classes, and what are the rules that we have defined for abstract classes, as well as like the interfaces also. Okay. So this I'm going to share. So I'll just rename this file. So abstraction and interfaces. Okay. So what are the rules? These are the rules that we have discussed about. Okay. So few things we were discussing. These are like no out of the actual thing that we have to discuss, like interfaces, and we have discussed interfaces and abstract classes. But what are the other things that will come as part of interface in the abstract classes? Okay, that we are going to discuss. So I'll add another package. Start. Second. Okay, so these are the few other things we are talking about interfaces and abstract classes. Okay, so first I'm going to create ABS class. So this is abstract class. In that I have some methods. Okay, public void test. Okay, so this is the method that I'm just defining. Public void. So this is kind of like a method which has a body. So if I'm creating it as like abstract, then we have to define the abstract keyword here. So because we have the abstract method defined. Okay. So likewise, we have another method, public void test one. So which is kind of like a concrete method. Okay. So here. Dot get. I want to get the method name. For this, we have to use a. There is something called reflection, so we can talk about it a little later. But just I want to get the method name. Another these are like two methods. Now I'm going to create one more method. So I'll call it as like test one. This is like test two. Okay, altogether we have two abstract methods, one concrete method, and we have a one class. Now, if you see that I'm going to create another class here. So ABS, what is that class name? Class one. Okay, so this class one extends ABS class. Okay. Now here also I have some methods called public void test one two. This test one two. Okay. It throws an error. Okay. So it's asking you to implement the unimplemented methods. So if you're still not sure, like for example, the thing is like if you are still not aware, but we have another class called main class. Okay. Main class. I want to implement those unimplemented methods in this main class. Okay. Whatever we have inside this and whatever the method here we have to override. So those can be implemented in the main method, but I don't want to do it in the ABS class one. In this case, what we have to do is like we have to avoid this. We can use a keyword called abstract again. Okay. So when we say this is abstract class again, so abstract class can extend the other class also. Okay. This is like abstract class and this is also abstract class. Okay. So if you don't want to implement the unimplemented methods in this class, then you can make this class as like a abstract. Okay. Now go here, and what you can do is like you can create object for this class. Main class main equals to new ABS class. Okay, but what is happening here? Now you see, I'm going to remove these things. The other thing is like, now we'll see one more thing I'll show you. Yeah. So ABS. So this is like main class that I'm going to create object from this class. Okay, but we don't have any like what is that we have discussed. So here we have unimplemented methods. I don't want to implement them in ABS class 1. And here we have some methods which I want to override in the main class. Okay. So what I'm going to do is like I'm going to extend, okay, override when the override can be possible. So override is possible when we are trying to extend the class, okay, the other class. Like this is like parent class and this is like a child class. So now what I'm doing is like I'm going to that child class like and extending its properties. So we'll discuss about this first and we will discuss about few things which are as part of rules. Now you see, so it is asking me to implement this method. So this is coming from, so from where this is like, it is showing the implementation, but here you can see it is coming from ABS class test and this is coming from ABS class 1. Okay. So here also I'm going to add one more. Test 2, 3, 4. Now go here and it will throw the error. So you need to add the implementation. So from where this is coming from? This is coming from ABS class 1. This is these 3 methods are coming from these 2 classes. Okay. So now this is not an abstract. So we have to provide the body to it. Okay. So when I say main dot, how many methods that I can access? One is coming from main class, second which is coming from main class, and this one is coming from ABS class 1, and this is coming from ABS class. Okay. So these many methods can be accessed. So the simple thing is like, why did I show this one is like, if you are not sure about this implementation and this implementation, we have like couple of classes that we want to implement in main class. In that case, if you have extended this class to this class, and after that, this is being extended by the main class. So this is nothing but multi-level. Okay. So multi-level inheritance. In this multi-level inheritance, if we have something marked as like abstract, and if you are not sure about that implementation in the child class itself, then what we are doing is like we are going to mark that class as like a abstract class. Okay. So this is nothing but kind of a adapter class. Okay. So adapter class is like, see what we are trying to do. Here we are just taking those classes and taking those methods within the class of ABS, and we are just not sure about it. So I'm going to skip that implementation. So it's kind of like, we have 2 classes now. So this way is like one type of adapter class that we can say. The other way is like, here I'm going to remove the abstraction. Okay. So here I'm going to remove the abstraction, but I'm going to just take the unimplemented methods. Okay. So unimplemented methods, I need to remove this now. So we cannot have the abstract methods if that class is not marked as like abstract. Okay. So here what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to just give the test 3, 4. Okay, it's already there. Okay, I'm going to 3, 4 we don't have. I'm going to remove this one. Okay, so this is one kind of adapter class again. Now you see what I'm trying to do is like, I'll just take those methods which are marked as like abstract, and I'm going to just make it as like, we are saying this is an override, but we are not providing any implementation here. Okay, we are not writing any statements or operations here. So if you want to override them, okay, if you want to override them in the main method, so what can we do is like, we can still go and create the same set of methods here. Okay, so whatever methods we have inside this, so these are the 2 methods which are local to this class, and these are the methods which we have taken as like override. Copy it and put it here. Now you see, still we have test. Okay, it's already there. Okay, so let me just remove this. It's already there. So now you can provide body here. Okay, so but from where it is coming now? It is coming from the ABS class 1. So this is the adapter class. and this is like a abstract class. Okay. So what are the other methods that we are coming as part of abstract? No methods. Okay. So what happens? Why do we use it? Is like, so I'll go to the paint here. I'll show you. See, for example, we have one class which is defined as like a abstract. Okay. So this class is abstract and we have methods from 1 to some 100. Okay. So in this case, this class is marked as like abstract. Okay. So now what I'm trying to do is like, I'm going to implement this particular class or else, sorry, extend this particular class in other class. Okay. So here I have a class. Okay. So this is non-abstract and this class contains kind of like it is a ABS1 class. Okay. So it is extending. What is that class that we have created? It is extends ABS class. Okay. So we have a common, we have a name here and we are putting it as like a ABS class. Now, if I extend this, I should be responsible of providing body to this. Okay. So what I'm going to do is like, I'll just try to put everything as like a unimplemented. Okay. So what I'm going to do is like, I'll just try to take all the methods from 1 to method 100 and I'm not going to implement them. Okay. So still they are like kind of like dummy methods. Dummy in the sense we don't have any body for this. Okay. So just like we have some auto-generated statements over there. So now what I'm going to do is like make it little readable. Okay, little readable in the sense instead of putting all the methods in the main class, I'm just taking all the methods here. Okay, from this class to this class, and here I'm going to put it as like dummy methods. From here, whichever method I need, I'm just going to take those methods. Okay, so this is kind of like you have a main class. So this class going to extends ABS class 1. Okay, so ABS class, this is ABS class 1. So here what I will do is like I'll take selectively. With 3, 25, with 45, with 85. See now it's kind of like a readable. Okay, so this class is nothing but adapter. We say that adapter. Okay, so adapter class still it can be a kind of abstract class and still you have this methods inside this adapter class. You can mark it as like abstract or non-abstract. Okay, so if you want to have some abstract methods here also, you can make it as like abstract. Otherwise, you can make it as like a non-abstract. So what happens? It will be like readable. When you look into the main class, you have the properties of this class and this class. Whenever you need, you can pull those methods here. Okay. So, but here you see selectively I can do it. Okay. So it's kind of like selective collections of the methods. So this is like this will be achievable through the adapter classes. Okay. So this is like achievable through the adapter classes. Few things we'll see when we have like, for example, if we want to use some exchange methods, in that we have annotations. In that annotation classes, we have a lot of like unimplemented methods. Okay. So those unimplemented methods we don't need. So in that case, what we do, we are going to take two classes and we use that as like an abstract. One is like kind of abstract class, another one is like a adapter class, and one is like a main class wherein we want to use them. Okay, so that I'll show you when we are working with this element. So this is the abstract class. And why do we need to have this abstract class? Is like, see, multiple inheritance is not possible. That is the reason why we have to take this abstract adapter class. Okay, so now you see this class holds the properties of this class and this class holds the properties of both the classes. And this finally will have this. This class will have the properties of this class and the two other classes. Okay, so when I extend this, now see ABS1 will have the properties of ABS class and ABS class 1 also. In main class, we are going to have the two properties. Okay, so save it. Now you see, we say main dot. See, you'll get all these methods. So test 1, test 1, 2, test 2, test 3, 4. Okay, everything will be available in this main class. But here, if you try to create an object, then this is not required, right? So that is the reason why what we are doing is like we are not creating object for this class and we are not marking it as like abstract. If we don't want to have this have any abstract classes, abstract methods inside this. Okay, so this kind of like filter. This will have like all the methods. This will have like all the methods which does not have the body to it. Okay, it's the auto-generated method, auto-generated statements that we have. After that, we are filtering out whichever method we want. We can take it. See, for example, I don't want to have this 3, 4. So 3, 4, I'm removing 3, 4, and I'm just trying to only give the body to this particular test and test 1. Okay, it's all up to us. How do we want to use this? Okay, this is called adapter classes. So now, when we look into the, see, this is like we have another thing that we were discussing, like in abstract classes. Abstract class will have the methods like concrete and abstract methods. Okay, so both will be have. We cannot achieve like 100% abstractions to the abstract classes. Now I'll go to the interfaces. So why do we need to use the interfaces? Interfaces will help us to achieve the 100% abstraction. Okay. Sorry.
Yes, I have the question that how we can use this on a real-time basis, adaptive classes.
Yeah, I was discussing about the this one, right? We are going to have the interfaces in the annotations classes and test engine. There I'll show you. Okay. So once we do that, when we implement that particular interface, it will list down all the unimplemented methods. Okay. So from there, if you extend, that's what next thing that we are going to discuss about it. Okay. So I'll tell you how do we. Now you see public void test. Public void test one. Creating another interface here. Interface 2. Interface 3. Okay, so this interface 2 have like 3 and 4. Interface 3 will not have anything here, but you see there is one thing which is like beauty of interfaces. Interface 1 comma interface 2. See, classes, do you have this option in the classes? When we try to create this class, for example, you see I'm going to create a class here. Class test extends ABS 1 comma ABS class. What it says? So it will say that this is not possible in class, but this is quite possible in interfaces. See, interfaces can extend multiple interfaces. Okay, so shall we go and implement the interface? This is not possible. Now you see, if you want to implement the interfaces, implementation will not be done because interface does not support any kind of object creation, right? So still you see, interfaces can extend multiple interfaces. Okay, so interfaces can extend multiple interfaces, but classes cannot extend multiple classes. Okay, so this is what we were talking about, like multiple inheritance is possible through the interfaces. So you can extend multiple interfaces, but you cannot extend multiple classes. Okay, so but the other thing is like, see, now the other rule is like implements interface to come interface, so you can implement multiple interfaces. Okay, so only thing is like you have to add the unimplemented methods. The difference between interfaces and classes, like classes cannot extend multiple classes, but interfaces can extend multiple interfaces. And other thing is like we can extend one class at a time. After that, we can implement multiple interfaces. Okay. So if, for example, if I say this is another interview question base, okay. First, I'm trying to implement interfaces. And after that, if I put the extends ABS, okay. So ABS class. Now this will not be allowed. This is not allowed. Okay. So this is not allowed. The extend should come first because only we are allowing only one class to get extended. Okay. Now you see. So implements is like we can extend only one class. Implement is like we can implement n number of interfaces after the extension of these classes. Okay, this is optional. For example, if you don't want to do anything here, this is optional. So now we go and add the unimplemented methods. Now you see, classes can implement multiple interfaces, but can't implement more than one class at a time. And interfaces can extend multiple interfaces at a time. Okay, and can't implement any of the interfaces. Okay, So this is the rule, guys. Okay, thumb rule for using the interfaces and extending the classes. Okay, now you see this multiple inheritance is possible through the interfaces, but multiple inheritance is not possible through the classes. Okay, so this is a important interview questions. You can explain them if somebody asks you like what is why multiple inheritance is not supported. Can you give an example? Then you can easily give the example. Okay, are you clear with this, guys?
Yes, Shikhar.
Okay, here also one other catch is like now you see here I have one interface, here I have another interface. Okay, so still you can do one thing. Okay, now you go here, go to the interface 2 and you say that extend interface 1. Okay, so now you got the interface 1. Now here you need not to extend the interface 1 here. So now you can see all these methods whatever we have like inside this interface 2 and interface 1 will be available in interface 3. When you simply go and when I see now I'm going to remove everything. Okay, I'm deleting. Now I'll just have this interface implemented. Now add implementation. See all the methods which are available in both the interfaces are getting implemented in this particular class. Okay, and I save it. Now you see, don't have any issues. So this is coming from interface 2, and this is coming from interface 2, and this is coming from. So this is already there because we have like implements the interface 3. So which is coming from the interface 3. Sorry, interface 2, I think. Second. Yeah, test 1. Test 2. Now you see. So which is already available in this. So test 1, test 2. Okay, here you can see. So this is coming from interface 1. Okay, test is like something which is already there in this particular one of the interfaces. Okay, so that is the reason why it is not showing. Now 3 is like test 1. You can see. I'll just remove this one. But it may throw the error. Yeah, now you can see this is coming from interface 1. This is coming from interface 2. Okay, so this is how we can achieve the multiple inheritance through the interfaces. And other thing is like we can extend a number of interfaces, but we cannot extend more than one class at a time. And we can implement a number of interfaces in class, but we cannot extend more than one class at a time. Okay, so this is like the difference between interfaces and abstraction. Okay, are you clear with this, guys? This is something which is different, and we are talking about like adapter classes and what are the different things that we can achieve through abstraction and interfaces. Okay, so why do we need to go with the interfaces? It's like if you have something like all the methods, I don't want to have the implementation for this methods. Like I'm not sure about the implementation, but all the methods should be marked as like abstract. In that case, we have to go with the interfaces. Some implementation, I need constructor, I have some instance variables which should be initialized, and that variables should be used as part of the methods in the concrete methods which is there in the which are part of abstract classes. Then we can go ahead with the abstract classes. Okay, for a simple example is like, guys, for example, we are taking a bank. Okay, so let us take, we have a RBI bank. So RBI bank is like we have defined some interest rate. Okay, so rate of interest, I'm going to give it as like float. Rate of interest is equals to some 5%. Okay, point F. Okay, so this is what 5% that we are defining as like a RBI, and RBI is public void rate of trust out ROI. Okay, now it's like up to the other thing is like public abstract loan amount limit. Okay, loan amount limit or loan amount eligibility. So this I'm not sure about it. Okay, so it's all I left it to the banks. Okay, the other banks, whichever bank publics Yeah. Okay, so now we have an abstract method here. So I'm only sure about like basic rule is like RBI is putting some 5% as like rate of interest if you are depositing or if something, okay, something that we have as part of like, if you are taking some loans or something on that, they are putting it as like, interest rate for the loan amount, something. But when you consider the other classes, okay, so I mean to say that we have Axis Bank. Axis Bank will have a different rules. Axis Bank, we have extends RBI. Now you see, Axis Bank has got an implemented method, loan amount limit. So whatever loan amount limit you want to put, you can put it. Okay, for example, 1 lakh per head. Okay, so there is some loan which is being given to the people of some category. Okay, so based on the eligibility, so they are going to give. For example, SBI. Okay, SBI extends RBI. So they may give some additional. Okay, so their loan amount would be 5 lakhs. Now there is a method, rate of interest. So what I'm going to do, I'll just take this method and I'm going to override it. Rate of interest. So interest into. So from where we are getting this? We are getting it from the parent class. This is RBI. Okay, I want to override this. Rate of interest would be like, I want to override ROI is equals to some, I'm going to put it here like, my ROI is like, otherwise I'll say ROI is equals to some, what is that, 5%. But here I'm changing it to 9%. Okay, so what I'm doing here, first is like I'm implementing my loan amount. Loan amount is like not sure, like RBI. It says like, it minimum amount is this much, maximum amount would be 10 lakhs. But it's all depends on the banks, like how much you want to give. You want to give 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakh, 5 lakhs. So it's all depends on the banks. Okay, so Axis Bank gives only 1 lakh, SBI gives 5 lakhs, but their rate of interest would be different. Here it is like rate of interest would be less. Okay, so it's all depends on the banking category. But this is like one bank like RBI bank, it has the norms, certain norms. Okay, so it will say that based on the eligibility, you can give the amount to a particular person from 1 to 10 lakhs. It's all depends on the banks. Okay, so this is how this will actually useful when we are trying to have this abstract classes. Okay, I'm not sure about the implementation. How does it gets implemented? Okay, so this is the reason why we are going to go with the abstract classes. If you are not sure, like we have some static, like kind of, it does not change anytime. Okay, if you are making it as like a final, in that case, what we do, we are going to have the interfaces. Okay, so all the interfaces will have all the abstract methods. Okay, only abstract methods, except from the things that we have discussed. One is like default and static. Okay, rest of the things are like all abstract methods will be available. Default also we can override. Okay, so this is the difference between interfaces and abstract classes. Abstract classes does not have 100% abstraction. Interfaces will have 100% abstraction. Both of them cannot be like, we cannot create object for both of the things. Okay, interfaces and abstract classes. Okay, are you clear with this, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so today I'll start with the concept called exception handling. Okay. Okay. So before getting into this exception handling, what do you think in general? What is the exception? What is the exception, guys? Okay. So let me take an example. So here, let me just check. So here, for example, you are a person and you are starting to the office. Okay. So this is the office. And here you are driving, you are riding a bike. Okay. So you reached this till this point. What happened is like you met with not met with an accident, but unfortunately your bike got punctured. Okay. So bike got punctured. So what do you do now? You are going to get it repaired, right? So this you are going to get it repaired and you are going to move forward. Okay. So this is like, kind of like unexpected event that happened. Okay. So generally you go to the office without any, it's kind of like a hassle-free transportation. But what happened is like in between there is something happened and you have to handle that. Okay. So you have to handle that. So now what we are trying to do is like here we are trying to handle the exception. This is the exception which happened here and we are handling it and we are moving forward. Okay. So this is nothing but exception handling. So unfortunate events which are happening and we are handling those unfortunate events and then we call it as like a exception handling. Okay. So what are exception? Exceptions are like kind of uninvited situations. Okay. Uninvited situations. So now you see, we'll go to the example, simple example here. Step 1, step 2, 3, step 4, 5. Okay. Now you see, if anything is divided by 0 or 3 divided by 0, what we get? We get 0. Okay. 0 divided by 3. What happens here? Let's go and see. So we got 0. This is fine. But if anything is divided by 0, what happens now? It's an infinite, right? So this is undefined. So what is happening now? So 1 executed properly, 2 executed properly, and it comes to the third statement. What is happening now? It is throwing the exception. What is that exception? Arithmetic exception. Divide by 0. Okay. So divide by 0. So this is nothing but it's kind of like an exception. Okay. So let's go ahead and see what is the exception and what are the different types of exceptions that we have and how do we handle that exception and what is the hierarchy of the exception. Okay. So let's go to this. And now you understand, right? What is that exception? Exception is like an uninvited situation. Okay. Uninvited situation. Something happening and it is breaking the execution. The normal flow is broken. Abnormal termination. So what happens here is like abnormally terminated. So what is my expected? So it should execute this, execute this, and it should execute this, and it should continue with the execution. So what is happening in this case? Now it is kind of like we have some exception here and we are stopped here. Abnormally program get terminated and it's going to throw the exceptions. Okay. What is exception? Exception is like abnormal termination of the execution. Okay. Sequence of execution will be stopped. So now you see here, now we have some exceptions. Okay. So Java knows some exceptions and the type of exceptions we call them as like checked exceptions and unchecked exceptions. Okay. So let me show you what are the hierarchy of it and what are the different exceptions that we have and how do we handle those exceptions. Okay. So okay. So just I've taken a source from here. You can easily see that throwable, and we have an exception here. Under this, we have two categories. One is exception, another one is like error. Okay. So we'll only limit ourselves to talk to the exception. I'll show you like what are the errors that we have. Error is like intentionally we are making something wrong, and that happens is like it's going to result in error. Okay. Stack overflow error, out of memory error. So this we are going to discuss like few errors. I'll show you how do we exactly do it. So next is like exceptions. You can see in exceptions, there are two categories. One is like IO exception, SQL, class not found, and runtime exception. So here we have like runtime and compile time exceptions. Okay. So compile time exceptions will be taken care by the compiler. Okay. So compiler exceptions will be taken care by the compiler. So JVM will take care of this compile time exception. What are runtime exceptions? These runtime exceptions are these exceptions will be reported during the runtime. Okay. So what are the exceptions that we have in case of runtime is like we have arithmetic exception, null pointer, number format, index out of bound exceptions. Okay. So, and after that we have array index out of bound and string index out of bound exceptions. So when we talk about the categorization, we have two types of exceptions. One is like checked exceptions. Okay. Checked exceptions will be taken care by JVM. Okay. So this will be done at the compile time. Okay. So unchecked exceptions. So this will be done at the runtime. Okay. So runtime in the sense during the runtime we'll come to know. We never know that this set of exceptions can be occurred at the runtime. Okay. So I'll take the example of this too. I'll try to explain it in a better way. So now we can understand here. See. Now this is kind of like exceptions we got. Okay. So this is like uninvited. So this kind of exceptions, what we call it as like a unchecked exceptions. We never wrote, right? So we started from the office and our bike was working fine. In the middle of the middle of the journey, it got I got a repair. So it's got punctured. Okay, I never know about it, like whether it will get punctured or not. So that's nothing but it's kind of like a uninvited. Okay, uninvited exception. Let us take another example is like you started from the office and all of a sudden is like you have to face the rain. Okay, you have to face the rain. So then what you do is like you have two things to do it. One is like you have to carry the umbrella and you can continue. Other one is like you can just stay somewhere and you can continue with the exception. That's nothing but you are handling the exception. Okay, so that we'll discuss about little later. But now you see that unchecked exceptions are like which are uninvited. Checked exceptions are like, for example, you have started from the home to office. Okay, but when you start, before starting, somebody is like your parents should be there, your spouse should be taking care of something. Okay, so they have a set of a checklist here. Just give me a second, guys. Okay, so now you see there is a person like who is going to check for it. Okay, so the person what he is doing is like you're going to the office. Okay, so as an employee you're going to the office. So your mother or spouse be taking care of your belongings. Okay, so there can be they have a checklist. Okay, so they may ask you to take the lunch box and wallet, and we have laptop. Okay, so they're checking for everything. So this is nothing but this is kind of like a program and this is like a JVM. So JVM is checking for the set of exceptions. Okay, so what are the checked exceptions here we have is like we have IO exceptions. Okay, IO exceptions, file not found exceptions, IO exceptions, file not found exception, and then we have class definition exception and class not found exception. Okay, so these are kind of like exceptions. In these exceptions, what JVM does is like it's going to check during the compile time itself. When you define something as part of the program, so which may result in this IO exceptions or file not found class definition exceptions, JVM is going to throw those exceptions firstly. Okay, so whether they may occur or they may not occur, but the thing is like it's going to check for this set of things. Okay, so it's to give the simple example is like, yeah, if you are going to the office and there would be some kind of a checklist, so that will be checked. Okay, in that case we can say that say that these exceptions would occur. Okay, would occur, but we're not definitely sure that these exceptions may result in breaking of the program. Okay, so we'll see that how do we handle these exceptions. We have two kind of exceptions. One is like checked exception, another is like unchecked exception. Checked exceptions are checked by the JVM at the compile time. Unchecked exceptions are resulted in the runtime. Okay, how do we handle this exception is like we have another method called try catch blocks. Okay, So try catch blocks. We'll discuss about try catch blocks little later. Before going to that try catch blocks, we'll try to see what are the exceptions that may result in the abnormal termination of the program and how do we handle that. Okay. Now you see, we have throwable is like it's a parent class. It's like highest class. Okay, what is the main class of the Java? Object is the main class. So object has this throwable. Under that we have exceptions here. Okay, exception and error. Let's go and see some documentation and we can see what are the exceptions that we have as part of Java. Java API documentation. Where we have exceptions. Okay, now you see object, throwable, and exceptions. Okay, so we have this many number of exceptions. You can see how many exceptions are there. This many number of exceptions which are identified. So you can see runtime exception. So when I click on this runtime exception, you can able to see that what are the exceptions that we have. Arithmetic exception. Okay, so I'll show you. We have listed few exceptions right there. You can see arithmetic exception, and we have number format exception, no such element exception, and then we have array index out of bound exceptions. Okay, say index out of bound exceptions. In that we have again you have two categories: array index out of bound exceptions, string out of bound exceptions. Okay, so these are kind of like runtime exceptions. So compile time exceptions are like, again we can go back and see what are the compile time exceptions. We have some compile time exceptions here which are not named but which will come under the category of exceptions. Okay, so unnamed, I mean like it does not categorize like runtime exceptions. Runtime exceptions are categorized because that can occur during the execution of the program. But compile time exception is like that will be resulted like JVM will check for those exceptions and it's going to ask you to specify those exceptions. Okay, so we need to handle those exceptions. So we'll go back here and we'll try to see what are the other exceptions that we have at least. And we are talking about this, right? So you can see we have a picture here. Okay, so throwable exception, IO exception, SQL exception, file not found exception, runtime exceptions. So in this, we'll see what is that exception that we have as part of EC. SQL exception we have, and we have IO exception. Okay, so when you click on this IO exceptions, you can see file not found exception, and then we have like file system. These are the different exceptions that we have. Okay, so now let's go to this example, the example that we are talking. Now you see that what is the exception I got? So I got the exception of arithmetic exception. This is like runtime. So compile time, we don't have any issues here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is like I'll just try to get the compile time exception. See how this will be seen. Okay, file is equals to new file, and I'm going to specify some location here. What it says, I have to implement this. This is fine. So I want to read this file. Okay, fr is equals to new file reader. I'm just using some class, reader class. I want to read the file, which is specified in this location. Now it will, this is nothing but the compile time exception has got. So what it says like unhandled exception type file not found exception. Okay, so it says like add throws exception or you can use the try catch. Okay, I'm going to use the throws exceptions. So this is nothing but compile time exception. See now what it is doing, like compiler is checking for this set of exceptions. Let us execute this and you see what is that it will do. See now it is throwing the file not found exceptions because I did not find the file path here. Okay, I'm creating the file, but I'm not finding like file path to read the file. So it says like file not found exceptions. There is no file which you are trying to read. Okay, so likewise we have different set of exceptions here. Okay, so this is like file not found exceptions. Then we have like another thing is like I've just created. Okay, this is nothing but I've just compiled and I'm trying to create kind of class for this, right? So I'll go to the location of this class. So for every .java, we have a dot class file. Okay, so I'm going here, and you can see rules concepts inside that. What is that? We have created exceptions, right? Exceptions. Go to the exceptions, exception handling, and we have a dot class file. So just see, I'm trying to copy paste it, and I'm going to delete the original copy. Okay, so dot class file. Now what it has done is like it has already compiled, and what it does is like at the next time when it try to execute this file, it will not find the definition of that file because we have renamed it. Okay, so again, if you want to see what it is like, class not found exception. Okay, could not find load main class exceptions because this is like already we have compiled and we got the dot class file. So what JVM does is like it's going to go and check for that. So as we talk about like Git compiler, right? So Git compiler, what it does is like it will try to execute the existing dot class file, but it did not find. So that is the reason why it is showing the exception. Okay, so to avoid this exception, what we have to do is like we have to recompile this. Okay, so this can be done. Now you see what I'm going to do is like I'll go here. I'll take this exception handling. So here I'm going to have the CMD. So Java C. Exception handling Java. So we got this dot class file created. Now we can go and try to execute this program. Okay, so it is compiled perfectly. Let me just go and try to execute this. It says like we have the exception. Let me just go and try to recompile it. Java C Java. Java. Okay, let me do one thing. So it's not showing up. I'll try to the same dot class file again. Okay, now you go and try to execute this. So I'm coming here directly. I'm going to execute. Okay, so now you don't see this class loaded because you have that dot class file created. Okay, so now you see you don't have that exception. So that's nothing but class definition not found exception is like kind of exception which it is showing when we have the dot class file removed. Okay, so likewise, these are the few exceptions, guys. Okay, so these are the few exceptions that we are talking about. Like we'll see one after the other. Like once we check about what are the unchecked exceptions, then we'll go with the checked exceptions. Okay, checked exceptions are very easy to identify, but unchecked exceptions are little difficult. Okay, so for example, now you see, I'm removing this. Now we got the arithmetic exception. I want to perform some action. Okay, so for example, string str is equals to otherwise what I'm going to do is like we have WebDriver loaded. So just to show you an example, I'm going to add one thing here. I'm adding just few Selenium jars so that we can understand. If we are making as like driver, object as like null, then what happens in that case? Okay. So downloading. Okay, so here I'm using some web driver. Is equals to some null. Okay, the dot get title. Now I go and execute this. Just trying to execute it. So we'll get some result here. We'll see what are those exceptions or results here. Just searching for that. I'll have one more jar file which is added. Don't worry about like what is and what is this and all. For now, I'm just trying to show you like how do we get the exceptions here. Fiber manager. Execute this. Submitting this and trying to execute. See, error occur during initializing of boot. Something is like it's kind of like an exception, resolution exception. So module. So which is like it is throwing some exception at this line. Okay. So WebDriver manager. Let me execute this program again. Initialization of boot layer. So some kind of exceptions which is showing. Let me just this. Okay. Okay, so something there is a error. So I need to just check that one. So here in this case, what is happening is like when you want to have something loaded as like null, okay, null pointer exception. In certain cases, what happens is like when you are trying to read data from the Excel file and if that value is not there, so what it's going to do is like it's going to throw the null pointer exception. Null pointer exceptions would generally happens when we have some set of values which are like pointing nowhere it is pointing. In that case, it's going to throw the null pointer exceptions. So here we can take the example. If we have something called a class, okay, I'm going to take the another class here. Class test class. We have method public void name. I want to print the name of it. Test name. So test class test is equals to null. Test dot. So what is that name? Now I try to execute this. So there's some exception which happened, I think. Go and common modules, Apache. Okay. So let me remove this configuration files. I think that is causing the issue. Otherwise, I need to add few more files. I need to move all of them to this class path. Let's see why that is happening during the Selenium classes. Okay, now I'm going to try to execute this. So what is happening here? Main method cannot invoke null pointer exception because we have defined it as like null. This object is not created yet, and we are trying to access the method from that class. Okay, so I just want to show you the real-time example with the Selenium, how exactly that's what, but it's not showing up here because some issue with the class path. I need to add it to the class libraries. I'll try to add this class libraries here, guys, not in the module. So then we'll see that whether we can able to achieve that or not. Okay, I'm going back to the Selenium 4.0. I'm trying to add everything along with the things in the class path, the external libraries. We will try to see that one also. Why is it not working? Web driver D is equals to null, and we should have d dot get something. Okay, so d dot get this one. So let me execute this. So we got the null pointer exception. Now it is like string. This is like, now you can see WebDriver is managed. Okay, I just added into the modules. I'll explain like how do we add those jar files and all. Now this is that it is throwing the exception. You are not pointing to anything, and you are trying to open. Okay, you say that we have a Chrome driver. Okay, so now what it does is like it will open the Chrome driver. See, it's going to open the Chrome browser. Okay, so there is something which is like, it says like no object is not defined here. Let me just no such method error found. Okay, so it says like no such method found here. So still we can go ahead and have one other thing is like we can directly use the WebDriver manager. Okay, I'll explain like how do we use that WebDriver manager. Okay, so now you see that we got this exception. Okay, so because it is not pointing to anywhere, WebDriver is not pointing, and we are trying to access the methods of the objects. It is similar to this. Okay, we have a class here and we are creating an object for this, and it's not pointing to anything, but still we are trying to access it. This is nothing but null pointer exception. So code looks good, right? So when we are trying to see, this one is like no compile time exceptions here. No, we don't have any no compile time exceptions. I'm removing this one also. Now you see that we don't have any compile time exceptions. So, but what is happening here in this case is like when you try to execute it, runtime it is producing the exceptions. Okay, so runtime it is producing the exceptions. Likewise, we have another exceptions also. For example, if we are defining array is equal to int new int, sorry. So it is new int of 1. Okay, one size. But here you go and put some value in 10. What happens in this case? Index out of mode exception. Okay, I'm going to comment this and you see. So these are all kind of exceptions. Array index out of mode exception. Because we don't have size and still you are trying to put that size, put that value into this index. We have only one index here. For example, if you put here, you don't get that exception. Now you'll get the divide 0 exception. Because this is like working fine. We don't have any issues with that. Okay. See now, runtime exceptions are like unknown. Until unless we execute the program, we never know what is that exception. Now you see, first you'll get the null pointer exception and it will break. It will not go to this line. Okay. If null pointer exception is not pointed out. For example, here we have only one. Okay. Here we have only one. And here I'm going to use some 16. Now we'll get the index out of one exception. If you comment this line, now we get the divide 0 exception. Okay. So for example, if you want to see this number format exceptions and all, where is one? Here you want to put plus if I find F. Now I'm going to comment this. Now we don't have any issues here, right? So everything looks good. Compiler says that everything is fine. But what is happening in this case is like it's going to say this number, for example, yes. Still which is accepting. So let me take this one as like I'm going to give some value here. float I is equals to 35 point. Tilde is producing this. Number format exceptions are like if that particular value, whatever we are defining, is not in a kind of like number. Okay, in that case, it's going to say number format exception. So we can take something, for example, string as equals to. We get to go and execute this. So we are still, well, just look into that case. Okay, number format exception is like if it is not a number, then it's going to throw the exception. Okay, so we saw some set of exception, null pointer exception, class definition exception, file not found exception. Okay, as part of like both checked and unchecked. And we looked into the array index order bound exception, and we looked into the divide zero exceptions. Okay, so these are the type of checked and unchecked exceptions. But in next class, like in tomorrow's class, like tomorrow we don't have class, guys. Sorry to inform you, like I have some medical emergency. Tomorrow we don't have class, but I'll be taking class on Saturday. So Saturday we'll be discussing about like how do we handle these exceptions now? Okay, how do we continue with the exceptions, and what are the different things that we can achieve through try-catch blocks, and what is finally block. And after that, we'll look into the sequence of executions of this particular exceptions. How do we handle them? How do we continue the execution? And what are the different classes that we are going to consider as part of like parent exceptions? And we see the custom exceptions. How do we create the custom exceptions? And I meant to say that if you have something here, if you want to notate this one as like, you want to override this. For example, you are getting this exception here. Okay. So you want to catch these exceptions and you want to put it in your own defined exceptions. Like if you want to throw some exceptions here, custom exceptions. So override these exceptions and how do we use the custom exception? So these things we'll be discussing on Friday, Saturday. Okay, for now I'll stop it here, and please try to look into this video and let me know if you have any doubts. Okay. So
Okay.
Thank you.
These are the basic things that we have to remember. Okay, what are exceptions, and we'll discuss about errors also. I'll show you like Stack Overflow error and out of memory error. Okay, how does we achieve this? Okay, thanks guys. Thanks for your time. Let's meet on Saturday.
Thank you, sir. Bye.